are.
Mr. Huxtable, here we are.
Hello.
How are you doing? Hello.
Hello. I'm good. No, I'm really good. Yeah. It's the sun's been shining. It's been cold still, though, isn't it? And it'd be cold, eh?
Oh, is it chilly? Because we're into May. Obviously, it's going to go colder, isn't it? I mean, we had some hail earlier on here in gorgeous Salisbury by the cathedral. Yeah, so it's all getting a bit chilly again, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
Fresh. It's not really this fresh in a minute. Anyway, we digress.
We do.
We digress.
We're talking to people this week, aren't we?
We are. We have been. We are. Yes, we have.
We have been. Because we haven't been around for a couple of weeks. Some of our viewers and listeners may have noticed, probably not, but we haven't been around for a couple of weeks. We've taken a little bit of a breather. We've taken our foot off the gas, as the good old Americans might say, and we had a breather, just to give you guys a breather as well. But this week, we're back with vengeance. And Mr. Huxtable, who have you been speaking to?
Yeah, we are back. We're back with a real doozy this week, and not the person I interviewed is a doozy, but as in, she's a doozy. It's a great interview.
Stop digging.
Yeah, doozy in the fact that she's great. So I've been talking to Sara Traynor. Sara Traynor is an executive leadership coach, and Sara is really unique in the way she coaches teams and leaders. So she works not exclusively in professional services, but she works with professional service firms, and she does a lot of work in the NHS, looking at kind of leadership resilience. And my God, those guys will have needed a bit of resilience in the last 12 months. But there's something really interesting about how Sara does it. She uses quite an interesting.
Don't tell him.
I'm not going to tell him.
Come on.
She uses a really interesting child's toy to help them to envisage the strategy. So shall we take a listen?
Let's take a listen.
Well, good afternoon, Sara. It's great to have you with us this week on our podcast recording. So welcome, Sara Traynor. Sara, do you want to introduce obviously yourself again and what you do?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Ryan. Lovely to be here. I'm Sara Traynor. I run my own coaching business called Sara Traynor Coaching. So it does what it says on the tin. And I coach leaders and teams to achieve breakthroughs. And by that, what I mean is achieve something that they wouldn't have otherwise achieved without my help.
Great. And it sounds really interesting. I bet you've had your hands full in the last few weeks and months, Sara, with the challenges that have been thrown at business.
It has been really, really interesting. My clients are predominantly law firms and the NHS at the moment. And in fact, the NHS is a new client to me since the pandemic, and I felt really honoured actually to be working with them and feeling like I'm making a difference in their working lives. That's felt really, really I felt that's meant a lot to me actually. So I've been working with management and leadership teams within the NHS, and as you can imagine, they have been absolutely stretched beyond what we can imagine, and equally law firms have had to go through sending all of their people home to work from home. That includes support staff who wouldn't necessarily have had laptops or any kind of devices. And actually what they found, what they've told me, is where previously they might have thought, oh well, it's no, it's too difficult for people to work from home if they haven't got laptops. When we have to do something, we always find a way. So I think some of the positives that have come out of it have been to kind of challenge some of the, oh, it's too difficult, kind of thinking from the past. And, that's understandable from the past, because it was pretty difficult and there would have been other priorities that were more important. But I think it has opened the gates now to different ways of working. And I think that's been a really positive thing.
It's interesting, isn't it? You mentioned that, because if you think about the last 12, 14 months, and let's be fair, they've been pretty challenging for many people. The adoption in change management and change leadership has had to be so marked, hasn't it? I bet, and so I would imagine you've been incredibly busy trying to help leaders and teams make that transition to, you know, the new way of working. And I'm curious, Sara, because, you know, you'll know this, we've known each other for a little while now, but you'll know that in our world, we try and help businesses and firms stay ahead of what their clients are thinking and wanting, and you know, providing measurement to give them an indication of how things feel for their clients at the moment. But in terms of what you've seen in the last 6 to 12 months, how have you helped those leaders, those boards, though, you know, the NHS? How have they? What techniques have you used to help them accelerate some of those issues?
Yeah, well, that's quite a big question, and there's quite a lot of variety to offer there. I'm just thinking, you know, the first thing that comes to mind is one of the first teams I worked within the NHS. As a team, they had been scattered throughout the whole region. So at the beginning of the pandemic, this time last year. So kind of summertime, autumn time, they were coming back together, and you know, they'd had experience. It was partly kind of like remembering what they actually do as a team together when they're not kind of out in a crisis, conscious that the crisis is still going on, and also thinking about their identity as a team, like, so who are they, and has that changed in this time? And it was actually quite a useful opportunity for them to kind of think, well, yeah, who are we, and what do we offer, and what value can we offer, and what have we demonstrated by our flexibility in this time, and what can we learn from that and take forward, and you know, and some really human aspects, which is that everybody has had a challenging experience in a very different way. We've all had challenging experiences, and you and I running our businesses, we will have had our own challenges that would have been some things would have been similar, some things would have been different, and I think sometimes when things are challenging, it's only natural to sometimes think, you know, either, oh, I've got it hardest, so it's really tough for me because of this, because, you know, for me personally, because I'm self-employed, so actually, you know, I've had to completely change my business model in some ways and make everything online. People who are employed might be looking at people who are furloughed and thinking, oh, well, it's all right for you because you've just been paid to have a holiday. And people who are furloughed might be saying to people who are employed, or thinking, well, it's all right for you because, you know, you've got a job. Have I got a job from one week to the next? So, and one of the things I've worked with a lot of teams is really for people to express their own challenges and really be heard by the other people in the team and feel like they've been heard. And it's really, really helpful for the other people in the team, whether this is a management team, a board, or a wider team, an operational team, for them to actually hear and understand what someone else has gone through. And for several reasons. Firstly, it might be very similar, and you might think, oh wow, it's not just me. Oh, that person went through something. Oh, they can relate. Or secondly, it might be completely different, and you know, we might think, wow, I had no idea like how difficult it might be to have kids and to be trying to run, you know, homeschooling and doing this, you know, and then, you know, equally to hear for, I think, leaders to hear their challenges, that the different challenges they're experiencing, and I think that really helps to kind of reconnect us as a team, and as humans, really, to create more empathy, and especially when we're all, as we are now, kind of on Zoom, and we don't have body language so much, so we don't really kind of know necessarily what's going on in other people's lives, and sometimes in quite functional business meetings that topic doesn't get covered. And again, that's quite, you know, in some ways that's quite correct. It's like, let's get on with the business of the day, but actually we lose something if we're not really also connecting as people and really empathizing with other people's challenges. And it's then that I've seen that then there's a real platform to kind of have a greater power to achieve what's needed to be achieved. because it's you know, it's still challenging, and I think that that extra understanding really helps.
One of the really interesting things of just as I was listening to you, what went through my mind is everybody's individual position will be the most important thing to them. You know, you gave some great examples. You know, if you're running your own business, you know, everything sort of lives and dies by what you're trying to do to keep your business running. If you're employed, you're worried about keeping your job, and that is such a crucial point. And thinking back, particularly into my own situation, I'm sure for you as well, Sara, that you know, we almost went into that survival mode, didn't we, in terms of, you know, how do I keep everything going? What do I need to do to keep, you know, keep my financial position in good shape? And it was really interesting because at the beginning of that curve, we saw a lot of businesses go into that and almost forget some of the most important people in their organization, their customers, you know, who were feeling equally as, you know, equally as bewildered and scared about what was happening. And what was really interesting was and I'm sure you've seen this, was the businesses that really understood that and understood that, you know, the way in which they looked after their customers at a really difficult time, and the way in which they managed particularly the communication with customers, were incredibly successful, whilst, as you described, in the background trying to pivot their business to using, you know, new systems or you know, getting everyone to work from home or whatever it was. And what struck me, Sara, in all of that was that you could see businesses that were used to crisis management. They had good strategies, they had good leaders, they had resilient leaders, they had, you know, leaders were going to, okay, let's not panic, let's just, you know, let's work through this calmly. And I would imagine a lot of what you do in terms of helping leaders and boards with the, you know, with their resilience and their planning, I would imagine that's quite rewarding when you see people get to that point. But you do it in a really unique way, Sara, don't you? You do your leadership training in a really unique way, and it involves little plastic blocks, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I often use a methodology called Lego serious play, and as its name suggests, it uses Lego bricks are involved, and it's very serious, as in it's about work. It's not a kind of let's have some fun and do some team building. It's about strategy, and it's about a problem, solving a problem that hasn't been able to be solved any other way. And it is about play as well, because play, as we get older, as children, we naturally solve problems, you know, using play, and we learn about the world by playing. And actually I was watching one of the kind of natural history programs last night, and it was talking about, and it was about primates, and it was saying how, you know, the young primates, they learn through playing. And you know, we've seen that, you know, we see that with the kind of any kind of animals around us, like dogs and cats and things, and you know, and children. And at some point we kind of pack that up in a box and we say, oh right, now we're going to be serious. And actually learning, we you know, thankfully there's been quite a kind of recognition more recently about the importance of lifelong learning, and as an individual and as businesses, and how learning is so important, because you know, to change, we obviously need to learn something new. So we need to be that kind of flexible and agile in our thinking. So play is almost like a doorway that opens up to a bit of a new way of thinking. And so in a way, I'm conscious that sometimes some people might be put off with that word and think, oh, you know, we haven't got time for that. It's, you know, we've got some serious stuff going on right now. But actually, what I've seen happen really quickly in groups of kind of either boards or team groups, actually within a few minutes of starting to work with the Lego and with the coaching questions that I ask them to answer, I can kind of I do see an opening up. It's quite difficult to describe in words, actually, but I do see what happens is maybe I could just describe the process very quickly.
Please do.
What happens is there's a 4-step process, and the first step is I ask a question, and the second step is the people around the table. So imagine a board table, so kind of 10 to 12 people maybe on average. People build the answer in using Lego, and I'll come back to that because that kind of sounds a bit tricky. And the third, the important part about the second step is that nobody speaks, so everybody has time to think about what about the question, what their answer is, and how they're going to represent that in 3 dimensions. The third step is, in turn, we go around the table and each person holds up their model and describes it. With that, you get a really rich description of the answer to the question, really, a much richer answer than if I just asked and somebody had just said off the top of their head some words, the first thing that came to their mind. And because it's in turn, everybody knows they're going to be heard. There isn't the kind of scrap for, well, shall I speak first? Or, well, no, I'll hang back. And whoever speaks first, kind of, does that topic then dominate the conversation? And do we miss something because people don't give their view because it's a slightly different tangent? So that's really important, that third step of everybody speaking and everybody listening. And then the fourth step is that there's a short time of reflection, really, and everyone, we think, oh, so what do we think about what we've just seen and heard? And those 4 steps, just as an example, so in a kind of a 2-hour kind of short, that would be a short session, I might ask 3 or 4 questions. So it's kind of like, maybe kind of 10 to 15 minutes to do that 4-step process, and then it goes again. And with each subsequent question, this is where I noticed that the actual depth of the answers gets so much more, just so powerful, really, and people feel that they can share, and what people actually hear and receive, because people are listening to understand. They're not listening to think, I'm going to jump in as soon as I get an opportunity. They know, they know that everybody gets an opportunity to both speak and listen, and just the insights that come out are really, really fascinating.
Just on that point, what I loved about what you said there was, you've got to be silent. You've got to build your model in Lego, which is really innovative, isn't it? Because in reality, you're building your strategy almost in model form in front of you, and then to have to sit there and listen to everybody else's descriptor about their model, I think is a really clever way of getting all of those important ideas and views from the group pulled together. So how could you see that playing out, Sara, in the situation where boards and leaders are looking to improve their customer or their client experience?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and excuse me of me looking away, and I may be making some noise, but I'm just picking up some Lego. I just it's not one I prepared earlier, it's just some Lego I happen to have lying around. So it could be anything as simple as this. Now, I've just built this. I haven't built this to mean anything. Sometimes we can build something that actually does. We've intentionally said, well, that person represents the customer, or that person represents the team member, or whatever. I just built and it equally works the other way around, where I just randomly put some bricks together, and I've thought, oh, what could I be representing here? Because what we're really talking about is a metaphor. So like I said, I haven't kind of prepared something, but we could be, so say that I'm on a board and I've just been asked, okay, what do I think our customer experience is like? And this is my answer. What I might be saying is, well, okay, so this is our customer, but I don't know if it's easy to see or not, but and actually here's our product over here. I'll just turn that around. But actually the customer can't really see the kind of the gold product that we actually offer to them. That we really think, oh, that's the real, that's the absolutely kind of gold standard product that we want to be offering. Actually, it's hidden behind a few other steps, So what can we do to kind of make that a bit more accessible to the customer? And so, I mean, that was just off the top of my head. I'm not saying, you know, I think my real point is to say that asking a board or a leadership team to sit down and think, okay, what is the customer experience? So what's good about it? Where do we think some of the blockages are? Where do we think our customers have an amazing experience already that we don't want to lose when we're inventing something? But where do we think that, you know, they don't have a great experience, or where have they told us that they'd like it to be better? And one thing I love about Lego Serious Play is you can build a model and you can describe what the bits of the model mean, and then people can go, oh right, I get that, oh I see what you mean, because as you turn that around I can't see that gold from the customer's perspective, but we can see it because, you know, we know it's there. And then it you know, it could move on to further questions like, so what can we do to either make the gold more kind of accessible to the customer? What do we want the customer to do? What could we do? And I think the kind of where I see huge value is people are looking at this as an external model. They're not interpreting somebody else's words, if you say. And I think, you know, obviously words are great, and that's how we communicate, but often we can take somebody else's words and we've got a different picture in our head of what we think they mean. And two people can think they're having a complete, we're totally on the same page, we're having exactly, we know what we're talking about, and they go off with completely different pictures of what they think needs to happen. And then further down the line, they're like, well, how has this happened? Whereas, you know, having a model that is most often like a metaphor, it's rarely a kind of an actual picture. It's kind of we kind of see it and we think, oh, I haven't seen it like that, or yes, I've seen it like that, no one else has been listening to it, or you know, whatever that might be. And it enables those richer conversations, and then I believe enables much more powerful action to happen, because the action is not kind of imagined like 10 different people thinking 10 different things are going to happen. So we've all had those meetings where we walk away and go, right, so is that clear? Yes, that's clear. And everybody walks out and goes, what was that all about? What are we doing again?
What do we agree to?
And you know, and there is an element of, you know, you can do that you can have more effective meetings without Lego Serious Play, but one of the beauties of it is the clarity, I think, and the
I mean that's coming massively across in terms of, and I loved your little diagram there, or your Lego construction there of, you know, the customer, you know, looking straight ahead, can't necessarily see the goal that's slightly off to the center, or, you know, and I often think when, you know, we talk to lots of clients about their customer strategy, or you know, what is your customer experience, what's your vision for customer experience, they often find that really difficult to vision, because they may know, or they may think they know what it is, because they might have seen competitors do it, or they may have had that, you know, feedback from some of their more trusted clients. But when you visualize it like you have, and you have to create it in your own mind, you know, your last point there about, you know, when you leave and go home that night, you think, oh, hang on, what did we agree to? What was that all about? You know, you go back in the next morning and there's your model to remind you. So it's a great tool.
And equally, I mean, I see a great opportunity of asking customers to use Lego Serious Play. So getting some customers together and to build their experience, or share their experience by building Lego models, which is even more even more of a richer kind of feedback than the feedback that businesses might already be getting. So
that's great. Yeah, absolutely. Sara, it's been an absolute joy to have you along and to share what you do, particularly, you know, a couple of things that have really come across today about, you know, really your coaching is all about helping those leaders really define what people are thinking, and putting almost themselves in their shoes, and then, you know, using Lego Serious Play to really pop those strategies, vision those strategies for their business, whether they be for their customers or their people, or their general business performance. And I think that's incredibly powerful. And I know our listeners and our viewers will get a lot from what you said today. If they want to get in contact with you, Sara, how do they do that, to talk more about what you've shared with us today?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I would absolutely love to have any kind of and even if anybody is just kind of curious and go, well, how does that work? I'm really happy to have some inquiries. So LinkedIn is probably a great way. So it's my name is Sara Traynor, so it's SaraTraynor coaching on LinkedIn, or my website is SaraTraynorCoaching.com. So that's probably easiest. Amazing. As well. So my email and mobile numbers are on there as well.
Fantastic, that's great. Sara, thanks for your time, I really appreciate it. I look forward to hearing and seeing some more stories from you in the future about how people are using Lego to use for their future strategy. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for inviting me. Pleasure to chat today.
Well, there we go. Some might call Lego a child's toy. I call it a genius's plaything, and all ages should be able to build Star Wars, destroyers and various other things at any age. At any age they damn well want to. But I love the idea of the using these sort of things to stimulate the thinking piece, isn't it? I love the concept. It was great to hear her talking about, learning through play. And it always sounds like, oh yeah, that's what you do at in nursery and all that sort of thing, which is absolutely right. But of course we don't, do we? As we get older, we think we should be more sensible, and therefore we suppress the need to be creative by giving something a go in a different way. And I love the idea of the Lego piece, giving it a bit more focus, particularly when she spoke about that customer experience idea of, so what do you think your customer experience looks like? Build something that talks to that. And then you alluded to the idea of, the customer looking in a certain direction but not looking in another direction, which was really interesting. I love that idea. I'm all for that sort of stuff. If you sit down with a bit of paper in front of you or a flip chart, I mean, it just stifles your creativity in many ways. But the way of doing it that Sara was talking about was great. Really, really good.
Yeah, the other thing that I really enjoyed talking to Sara about was this perception that the world that you find yourself in as a business owner or an employee or someone that's furloughed or whatever it might be, nobody has got it as tough as you have. Your world is sacrosanct in terms of nobody else can have it as possible as bad. And the ability to be able to use Lego to talk about the future you want to create from where you currently are, and everyone you're going through the same process in the team and using that to be really expressive about what's next, I thought was a brilliant idea. Because I don't know about you, Rich, but I've sat in loads of meetings over the years where there's always one person that's got a view over everybody else, and no matter how many times you try and get other delegates involved in that conversation, it can be quite difficult because people can be domineering. So using that very simple technique of using Lego to create the strategy or the future vision that you have, and then explaining what that looks like, really does give everybody a voice in the conversation.
And it fitted quite nicely into that voice piece. It's really interesting. Obviously, everybody's listening here now. If they've heard us before, even if they haven't, they might get an idea that we are quite interested in the voice of the customer, as an initial sort of point of call. But also, she spoke really well about the voice of employees, sharing what's going on, being open about the situation so people can understand where you're coming from. In neuro-linguistic profiling, we talk about how the map is not the territory, which is a really great way of saying, look, what you see in front of you is not necessarily actually the terrain that's in front of you. There might be hidden things underneath the surface. And that's the case with your team members and other people within organizations. And if you can't see that or understand that, then we may not be or have the empathy towards them. And of course, if we haven't got that within the organization, as others may have heard us say before, that reflects on how the customer experiences your organization as well. So that lack of empathy, that lack of teamwork, that lack of resilience, or the fact that people don't try things new because it's too difficult, if that carries on in an organization, your customers pick up on it, whether it's actively or passively, or they're really aware of it or they're not, whatever it might be, they can pick up on it. But also they may well get a poor amount of service from you because of it, because there isn't that empathy within a team. So really critical to sort of see that, and we also see that from the instant insight system that we use and we offer out to our clients. Is that's the sort of thing that enables their teams to have their voice heard as well. So it doesn't just need to be, you know, and clearly what Sara does is a fantastic opportunity for teams to get together and talk and really let people know what's going on. But there's also ways of hearing the voice of your employees via something like our instant insight system as well. You know, ask them on a regular basis, every week or every other week or every month. How are you feeling? What's going on? What's important? What do we need to know about what's going on in your work world at the moment that could impact the wider picture? And we can ask people that. And that, again, impacts the customer's experience heavily, I believe. So it's great to hear that she's really focusing on that from the work that she's doing.
I think the other thing that was really interesting that I reflected on after the conversation was we've got some, you know, we've talked about this regularly through the pandemic, but, you know, we've had various different dates that have come and gone, and, you know, various different, you know, lockdowns, open ups, but, you know, we are now genuinely, aren't we, as we come into May, coming towards some critical dates. And May the 17th, where, you know, indoor hospitality opens up back up. You can, you know, you'll be able to meet people inside with the rule of 6, and then June the 21st, when potentially all of those restrictions are going to go. You know, leaders and owners and managers of businesses will have to go again, won't they? They'll have to think again about how customers and therefore employees are going to interact with their workplaces, their clients, their you know how they interact. And, you know, I suppose one of the questions in my mind is, we've been doing this now for 14-15 months of the restrictions. You know, are leaders in a resilient place to be able to go again? You know, this might be the final time, but you know, do they have a strategy in their head that says, okay, how do I get my team, my workforce back to normality? We're doing a piece of work for a client at the moment called a client needs survey through Instant Insight, and they're asking some really stretching questions actually of their clients in terms of, you know, do you want to come back into the office? If you come back into the office, you know, what are you expecting to see there? Are you going to attend our events? And if so, what sort of size events are you going to attend? Is it less than 10 people? Are you going to feel comfortable 20 to 30 people? You know, so there are some businesses out there that are thinking about this stuff and have been thinking about this stuff for a little while now. So I think, you know, from our perspective, that's good news. But, you know, coming back to Sara's point, don't assume your customers are going to behave in the way you think they're going to behave. Lead it. Ask the question.
Love it. What a great point to leave the listeners and viewers on there. Yeah, don't let's make assumptions. Let's get some data. Let's get some insight. Always love a bit of data. It's always good. Always good. Absolutely. Well, time has flown by. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Everybody out there, we'd love to hear what you think. Have you taken part in Lego Serious Play? Has it had an impact? We'd like to know. Let's see what's going on. What questions are you asking your customers as the next stage of the lifting of lockdown sort of appears over the horizon? So it'd be good to hear all those sort of things. It'd be great. Mr. Huxtable.
Mr. Knight. I've been Mr. Huxtable.
And I've been Mr. Knight.
See you soon.
Nothing like a class finish. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.